I wanted to ask you, you brought up Chiefs for Change. A Washington Post education blogger came down really hard on Chiefs for Change yesterday. What did you think of that? She pretty much accused you guys of pulling a trick. In fact, that was her word.
I haven't seen it. So
Oh, you didn't see the piece? Okay. You sent a letter about Randy Weingarten.
no, I don't. We sent a letter to Secretary Duncan about the moratorium, which yes, Randy had gone and she said we needed to have a moratorium on moving forward with any use of results from assessments as we transition to the Common Core.
Mm-hmm.
What our letter said, which I think is really important, is that those decisions need to be made at the local and state level based on where different states are.
Uh-huh.
So for us in Rhode Island, the way in which we transition into the new assessment, whether it's PARC or another Common Core aligned assessment, and how we use it is probably going to be different from the way another state might make that transition for a variety of different reasons. And so calling for a blanket moratorium or calling for a blanket rush ahead, neither of those are the right thing to do.
Okay.
For us, we're going to take every one of those decisions and make them very carefully based on what's happening within Rhode
But you
Island.
didn't mean for that to imply that Randy Weingarten had...
No, I think we did. I mean, we did, because Randy said we're going to have a moratorium. We should have a nationwide moratorium.
Okay.
And we're saying, no, actually those decisions should be made based on where people are, and we shouldn't have a moratorium. So every state should be making those decisions based on their circumstances.
So what have you learned about Rhode Island through the last week?
Through the last week or through
Yeah.
the last 4 years?
Let's start with the last week.
What have I learned about Rhode Island?
Yeah. Or the education system here, the teachers here, the parents here.
I mean, I don't know if I've learned something about Rhode Island. I think in the last week I've definitely gotten a message, and not just in the last week, but in the last, I forget when the poll was released a couple of weeks ago, but from the poll to the rally that was on Monday night, I've gotten very clear messages about where the teachers are, what they're feeling, and what their feedback is. And I was very anxious to get my hands on the transcript from the event on Monday night. Had it in there and was beginning to flip through it, and we'll read it very carefully.
Would you stay for a one-year contract extension?
I don't know. I don't think that's something that's being considered. So I think it's not really something I've thought about. But I think we need to have a commitment that's going to. I mean, a one-year contract sort of gets you to. You got to turn around and start having the conversation all over again. So, but I don't. It's not my understanding that's being considered. So.
Okay, and you haven't thought about whether you'd accept a one-year contract?
I don't think that's something that's being considered. But
Okay.
if it were offered to me, I would have to think about that.
Okay. You want a 3-year contract?
Elliot answered that question because he made an assumption. So I think he got a call from Dan McGowan.
Yep.
And I think Elliot and I had not talked about it. And I think he made an assumption that because my contract had been 3 years, so I hadn't thought about that either. So when I saw that, I asked him about it. He said, well, I just kind of assumed it was always been 3 years. So, that was my first contract was 3 years, and then it was extended by a year, so it's been 4. So I kind of always assumed it would be 3, but honestly, I haven't had conversations with the board about 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years, so I don't really know.
Talk about the political ramifications if they offer you a 1-year contract extension, Commissioner.
I think it would be difficult. I think it would be difficult because it kind of feels like it's so short that, what would happen within that year? Would people sort of be like, what's going to happen? It's going to happen so soon. I think that would be challenging. But like I said, I don't think that's something, I don't know, but I don't think that's something that's being discussed.
So last time we spoke, you were really committed to staying here in Rhode Island. Still?
Absolutely.
How come?
Well, it's my
What do
home,
you like
first of
about
all.
us so much?
It's my home.
Ken Block keeps telling me everyone's leaving Rhode Island, but you want to stay.
To be honest with you, that's one of the things that I've noticed about the state. You asked me what I had learned about the state in the last week, and I said, well, what about the last 4 years? One of the things that I noticed about the state from the moment I got here was very glaring to me, is that Rhode Islanders love Rhode Island in the sense that it's a home, it's a great state, it's a great place to be, but there's also this undercurrent of, I don't know, sort of a negativity about the state at the same time that there's a love for the home state. And it was really evident to me when I got here. That along with one of the things I noticed, one of the things that's come out in the last week through the rally is about morale, and through the poll was about morale. Morale was very low when I got here. I mean, I don't know if there had been a poll, but I can tell you that when I arrived, I was so surprised at how just the dejection, people were really bummed out, and this whole back and forth of management rights and labor. I'd never seen that. I've lived in 4 different states, 4 states in Washington D.C. I've never seen that before. That kind of divisiveness and that level of morale. So
Me too. I've covered 5 different states, and I've never seen it either. What's your theory for why the morale was low before you were here?
I don't know the answer to that, but I know that I'm responsible for my part of where we are now. But I was just pointing that out just to say that I think that you asked me why I wanted to stay here, and I just believe so much in this state. I believe in the people. I believe in our students. I believe in our ability to have a world-class education system. We invest strongly in our schools. We have amazing teachers. I was in 3 different schools just today and saw just the most incredible teaching. And we have leadership that supports our schools, especially at the state level. In a lot of places they're cutting education for funding at the state level. We've increased, but not we, our leaders have increased funding for education, for K-12 education. So that investment, plus great teachers, plus families, plus the resources, the richness of what's available in our state, I just believe that we can do this.
Yeah.
And we're in a rocky place right now, and I've got to sit down with folks and figure out how we come together and productively move forward after this.